Hey everyone, Manny Gomes here, mortgage planner servicing Fairfield and New Haven counties. Today I want to talk to you about TRID, what it is, where it came from, and how it will impact us going forward. TRID is a result of the Dodd-Frank Act. The Dodd-Frank Act was enacted after the financial and housing crisis of 2008, and it was created in order to prevent another 2008 style crisis from ever occurring again. So what it did was it overhauled compliance and transparency. So the regulators are now looking for financial institutions to provide additional transparency and compliance for consumers. And what TRID does is it changes and modifies the closing process for a mortgage loan. Currently, what tends to happen would be that a HUD is formed at closing, and the HUD is normally only presented to the borrower at closing. Regulators have heard complaints and they've heard stories of consumers who show up at closing and the numbers that they were expecting are higher than what they were expecting, and they feel like they're forced to close at those terms, or else their deposit is in jeopardy, or they won't get the house if they ask for an extension to kind of modify and fix any errors or any deceptive practices that were created during that process. So TRID is now ensuring that the consumer receives the final figures 3 days before closing, and they have to acknowledge receipt of those figures 3 days before closing. So if the bank or company provides those figures but the borrower does not consent receipt, the clock did not start ticking yet. There's a couple different ways of providing consent or receipt. One is to mail the electronic document, which from what I've heard, a lot of the larger lenders are participating with the mailing. And at that point, you have to wait 6 days. 3 days for delivery and 3 days for the time period to lapse. What we're doing here is we're actually doing the electronic version. So we're going to send an email with password encrypted email, and the consumers can have to open that email to start the clock ticking for the 3 day period. So we're trying to do that to kind of cut down on the amount of time necessary. Now, how will this impact things? Just like anything, when you're radically changing a closing process as in a complex system already, such as a mortgage, there's going to be a lot of unintended consequences initially. Compliance is tough in the back-end office of mortgage companies. There will be delays. I'll just be very honest and tell you you plan for delays, and plan to tell your clients that they may have a couple of delays along the way. But what you should do is just extend whatever closing dates you originally were estimating by about a week and a half to 2 weeks. This will cut down on most of what I think is going to happen in terms of having upset clients. And I always use a story when going to a transaction, kind of like taking a flight. You can have a great flight, reach your destination, and then have a very bumpy landing, and you will probably never try out that airline again. And if you could manage expectations and try to go in for that very smooth landing, it's just a great way to build your business and a great way to retain clients. I hope you enjoyed that watered down quick explanation of TRID. Feel free to share this with clients if they want to understand what it truly is. Thank you very much.